The activity card sort is an assessment that provides clinicians with the client's occupational history and other information to determine the client's interests and pick out occupations that are meaningful to them. It also tells clinicians if clients are doing less of any meaningful activities that they used to do in the past. The activity card sort allows OTPs to be client-centered and base treatments around the occupations the client finds most meaningful. So the ACS consists of 89 photographs on cards that include occupational tasks or activities. The activities are divided into 4 categories, which include instrumental activities, which there are 20 cards, low-demand leisure activities, where there are 35 cards, high-demand leisure activities, where there are 17 cards, and social activities, where there are 17 cards. The client is told to sort each of these cards into specific categories that determine their level of engagement in each of the activities. The categories differ depending on which form or version you have your client filling out. So there are 3 versions or forms to choose from when doing the activity card sort. There's Form A, the institutional version, which you would use in hospital, rehab, or SNF settings. And then there are 2 categories that they are told to divide the cards into: done prior to illness or injury, or not done prior to illness or injury. Then you have Form B, which is the recovering version. You use this once the person is home and receiving outpatient or in-home services. It's also useful for community follow-up and outcome studies. So here they have 5 categories in which they can sort the cards into. They have not done prior to current illness or injury, continued to do during illness or injury, do less since illness or injury, given up due to illness or injury, or new activity since illness or injury. And then lastly, we have Form C, which is the community living version. You use this when working in a community population, and it does not assume that the client has an illness or injury that requires specific treatment. So here they have 4 categories in which they can sort their cards into, which include not done since age 60, do now, do less, or given up. So once you pick one of the 3 forms and have your client complete it, you're going to score the activity card sort. So for Form A, each activity is worth 1 point. So then you're going to go and you're going to total up for each of the 4 different activity categories: the instrumental, low demand, leisure, high demand leisure, and social. You're going to total up each of the 2 columns, the done prior and the not done prior, and you're going to get a total for each of the 4 activity categories. And then at the bottom of the form, you'll see a blue column that says total activities, where you can do a total of all 4 of the activity categories and get a total for the entire activity card sort. So then lastly, for Form A, you're going to have the client identify the 5 most important activities to them. And these can be activities that they no longer do. So moving on to Form B, to score this, if the client has not done the activity, you're going to place a check mark in the not done before current illness or injury box. And then for the remaining 4 columns, they continue to do less, given up, or new activity. You're going to circle the number in the column that aligns with the choice the client made during the card sort. So if they put that card in continued to do during illness or injury, you would circle 1, for example. If the client placed a card in the continue to do, given up, or do less column, you're also going to circle the number 1 in the done previously column, which is surrounded by the 2 green lines. And then for each of the 4 activity categories, again, you're going to total up the columns to obtain the sectional totals for each of the 4 activities. And then once you have those totals, you're going to calculate the current activity amount by adding the continue to do less, and new activity columns. And that's going to be your current total. And then you're going to calculate your previous activity amount by totaling the done previously column surrounded by the green. And then lastly, you're going to divide the current activity amount by the previous activity amount to get the percent retained activity score. And then at the bottom of the form, you can do the global ACS score, where you total all of the columns from all 4 of the categories, and you do the same thing that I just said for each of the sections. So then again, at the end, you're going to have the client identify the 5 most important activities to them, and again, they can be no longer done by the client. So lastly, Form C if the client sorts an activity card under the haven't done since age 60 category, you're going to put a check mark under the not done since age 60 column. For the remaining 3 categories, the do now, do less, or given up, you're going to circle the number that aligns to the choice the client made in the card sort. So again, if they sorted the card in the do now category, you're going to circle 1, for example. Okay. So then if the client placed a card in the do now, do less, or given up category, you're also going to circle the number 1 in the done previously column that's all the way to the right after the green line. For each of the 4 activity categories, you're going to total up each column to obtain the sectional totals. Then again, we're going to calculate the current activity amount by adding the do now and do less columns for each of the sections. Then we're going to calculate the previous activity amount by totaling the done previously column in each of the sections. So then we're going to divide the current by the previous activity amount to obtain the percent retained of activity score. And then again, at the bottom of this sheet, you can do the global ACS score where you do the same, where you add up the different columns and then divide the current by the previous activity score to get the total percent retained for the entire card sort. And again, you're going to have them identify their 5 most important activities. So that's the activity card sort.